Time now for our rants and raves of the week, starting with you, Dan.
Well, I have a rant for Donald Trump. We haven't mentioned him for a few minutes, so I thought I'd bring him back onto the stage here.
He is again. Could you just?
He's orange hair. The Washington Post is working on a book about Donald Trump that will be out later this year, and apparently they have hired 20 people to work on this book. And Donald Trump went apoplectic the other day. Now, politicians complain about the media all the time, but what Trump said was that Jeff Bezos, the owner of Amazon and the Post, is using the Post to advance Amazon's agenda of not having to pay taxes, and when I get in there, I'm going to make sure that Amazon has to pay taxes again. This is reminiscent of Richard Nixon at the height of Watergate, threatening the television licenses that the Washington Post held. It always seems to come back to the Post, doesn't it? This isn't complaining about the media. This is thuggery, which does seem to be Trump's stock and trade.
Well, you raise a great point. And first of all, I think it's great what the Post is doing. By all means, let's scrutinize this guy before we hand over the nuclear briefcase to him. I expect similar scrutiny and tough reporting of the Democratic nominee.
I'm sure there will be.
I'm sure there will be, too.
No, they've already said there won't be as much because they've already vetted her. They've already said that.
Well, that's wrong. So they need to change their course on that. But you make a great point, which is part of the deal with Mr. Trump is you've got a guy with a history of real litigiousness. And he doesn't need much of a reason to sue you. And media outlets all over the country should be ready for what it's going to be like if he's in there.
All right, Callie, what do you got?
I am thrilled to point out the Undefeated is being formally launched on Tuesday. The Undefeated is a vertical of ESPN. They're launching it Tuesday because that's when they are doing the upfronts, which is the time for them to bring out all of their stuff. The name comes from Maya Angelou, the poet, and she says, "You may encounter many defeats, but you must not be defeated." It's a fantastic editorial team. They're going to be doing a lot of, I hope, very smart reporting about culture, sports, race, and it'll just be really interesting to see.
When does it air?
It starts Tuesday.
All right, great.
Who's the editor going to be for that?
Kevin Merida. He was formerly the deputy managing editor of the Post, and they were sad, very sad to leave him, and it's a big deal for him.
All right, Adam.
All right, I want to rant about my premature rave, I think, on last week's show of this New York Times Magazine profile of Ben Rhodes, this young, very important aide to President Obama who handles national security stuff and foreign policy. Sorry, not national security, foreign policy. Basically, David Samuels wrote this piece for the New York Times Magazine. I thought it was a terrific read. We have learned in the past week that there are some big problems with it. Among them, David Samuels, the reporter who wrote it, was a passionate advocate against the Iran deal, which came up, played a central role in this story. He didn't disclose that fact. He also, impugned the integrity of a couple high-profile journalists, Jeffrey Goldberg from The Atlantic and Laura Rosen, who writes a lot about Iran. In the piece, they were not contacted for comment, given a chance to respond at all, and have pushed back very aggressively. So still a good read.
You still love it, yeah.
Well, it was a good read. It was a good read, but journalistically flawed, I think.
All right, John.
Well, in line with my long-standing jihad against the total destruction of our civilization by the internet, I saw a little item today about how engaged couples are apparently being driven insane and driven broke by the overwhelming prevalence of information online about wedding planning. They're seeing a million stories about Kim and Kanye's wall of flowers at their wedding. They want it too. Turns out it costs you $30,000. The cost of a wedding is going through the ceiling. And now also a major wedding planning website is so worried about the apparently over-the-top stress this is placing on couples that they're going dark. on Sundays, which is usually their busiest day, and just posting a note saying, hey, couples,
Cute gimmick.
chill out, take a deep breath.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
okay.
And I get twice as many people Monday.
You know what
Okay,
part of the
okay.
problem is? It's because on Facebook we present this, many of us present this stylized version of ourselves, right? It's not our life as we really live it,
course
but our
not.
life as we want people to think we live it. And then
It's
everyone says,
distorting reality.
Here's the part
All
of the
right.
problem is that a lot of this stuff Kanye and Kim got was for free. Thank you.
Yeah, I know.
You know.
All right, finally tonight I have a rave for Washington Post columnist Dana Milbank, who followed through on a promise. Unlike all the other pundits who said there was no way that Donald Trump could possibly ever get the nomination, he said he'd eat his column or eat the newspaper. Of course, it was disguised in an 8-course gourmet meal, but
looks
every
good.
bit of it had newspaper in it. But he ended up eating his entire column and 8 courses of meal at the same time. Follow through with his promise.
Emily, come on, that's baloney. I did that once. I wrote
you?
something that turned out to be totally wrong, and I
Yeah.
had said I'll eat
Yeah,
my
yeah.
words, and I did. I didn't have it mixed in
I know.
with gnocchi.
I thought that would, gnocchi and hamburger. and-
Straight paper is disgusting, too. Awfully dry.
Tastes like.
Do we have
Wallpaper
photo
toothpaste.
evidence of that? Is that
Oh,
on
yeah.
Facebook?
I can provide you with the proof. No, not on Facebook.
All right, that is it for our show. Tell us what you think. Email us, tweet us, or leave a comment. We're always on at beatthepress.org.